All right. So you have a baby, and the baby is born with a tail. And you asking yourself, how on earth did this happen? And you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to say, well, is it whose fault is it? Well, then you all of a sudden you say, you know what, we're going to pray about this. We're going to turn this and take this to what I would consider the good book. And that leads you down to a scripture that says, and it came to pass, this is in Genesis, that when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and the daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men and they took them as wives. All of a sudden, that takes us to the story of the giants and the Nephilims. So if you keep going down this rabbit hole, you begin to find out that something else is going on here for your child to be born with a tail. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to get into the reptilian side of things. As you would know, that's all about what we do here. We're going to go really deep into your and my genetics, as well as the shapeshifters. And if you want to think about it, we're going to do that here. I'm going to take you to a part where if that's not enough, you're going to see where all of these lizards and snakes and all of these things has a connection to us, to where medical science have confirmed that maybe we do have a little reptilianness in us. So we're going to talk about that tonight. In fact, Jasmine is going to be here with the J report, and she's going to dive deep into that particular scenario. So I want you to be prepared for that as well. Also, as you know, we had our hotline. Yeah, our hotline is out accepting calls for reptilian stories. And you know what? We got some that came in. And so tonight, I'm going to play the audio from a call that tells their tongue-twisting story of the shapeshifter that they went out on a date with. So you're going to get to hear all of that audio and everything else. So either way, prepare yourselves, because tonight is going to be a good one. And what you're about to hear, you may not believe it. So let's get down into the stories, and we're going to go down and have a great show right after this quick little message.
That back there is not real.
There was a group of reptilians there.
All right, so I know most of us are thinking, well, Roderick, we're talking about reptilian shapeshifters, and if this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. I'm Roderick Martin, aka the Symbolizer, and that's it. We're going down the rabbit hole, and we're getting closer and closer. Is there any truth to the reptilian agenda? And we're going to spend whatever time and how many times it takes us to get there. But I think tonight we're going to get one step closer. We're going to get a little more information that's going to get us a little more closer, but this one, a little more closer to home to you and me and all the things that we have gone through and what we're dealing with in life. And so I just want you to be prepared for what we're about to say and some of the things that we're going to discuss, because it's going to hit home. Well, it all starts out we all have our children, right? And we have the dreams of having kids, and you begin to find a perfect mate, or somebody that you may say, hey, you can be my baby daddy or my baby mama or whatever you want to call it now, or wife or whatever, husband. And you have that baby. And all of a sudden, you get the baby, and it looks like you and looks like him. And because it's you all's baby and nobody's saying it's not, all of a sudden some anomaly things begin to happen, things that you're not really prepared for. And it begins to question the logic. And let me tell you something. This is something that happens, but it's not happening a lot. It's on a very rare occasion that this is happening, where some of these children are born with an actual tail. Now, they may give it some type of name, but when genetics and doctors talk about it, they say it is a real tail. And we're going to go into that tonight into the show. But it does takes us back not to wonder, to think about what we do know when it came back to all of these things, which was what? It had everything to deal with the fact that back somewhere in ancient civilizations that they said that there were some reptilians involved in our lives. And it takes us all the way back. And once again, it takes us back to those Nephilims and to the giants, all the way back to the Anunnaki. Now, as you've been here before, our story is that these reptilians is a little more than what we're just talking about here, because it goes into what we call the system here that we have broken down on many occasions, where you have your overlords, the deities, these reptilian shapeshifters that are in the other dimensions that do come down into our whole systems, and of course then comes all the way down to the bottom of the food chain here for control. Now, as you would know, it's all about energy, and so that is what we're all about, is keeping that energy up, because that is the food. But what happens when they want to walk among us? What happens when they know that they can't show themselves because of the way they look and things that will be surprising enough? But what happens? This is where the story comes of genetic hybrids, tampering, and all of these things. And so let me give you a conclusion of things. And if you didn't know, I've been on 11 different TV shows. And so you're talking about Beyond Belief, Gaia, Ancient Aliens, and all of these different places. And so my pedigree, when it comes down to, aliens, is this. This is some of my synopsis a little bit. And of course, you can challenge this theory and everything else, or hypothesis, or whatever you want to call it. But this is what I think, these three things right here, and it was the foundation of things that I've learned, and also in the book that I have coming out now, The Unspeakable Truth. But here, number one, that all humans are byproducts of alien genetic manipulations, some more than others. Number two, at certain points in our history, certain alien races have come to Earth to manipulate, tamper with, experiment with people, but not all people, but just certain ones based upon race, mentalities, and a worldly statue. We'll get to that later on. Number three, the reptilian race have the designated selective group of people that they overtly own to utilize for their personal agendas. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Truth versus Authority, where we go deep into the reptilian agenda here. And you probably won't find any other channels out here anywhere on YouTube that's dedicated to the reptilian agenda. But make no mistake about it. It goes into the shapeshifters. It goes into our politics. It goes into our religion. It goes everywhere. So it's not just about those little pesky little things flying around that some of us call UFOs. We're talking angels, demonic things, deities, fifth dimension, other dimensions, underground, in tunnels, caves, walking around in you. And this is very deep. And so welcome. And if you can hang, stay here with us. And if you can't, just try to stay here with us as we go down this rabbit hole. So let me begin now and just paint the picture. There are DNA that we all have in us. And there's this theory that there's a lot of different DNA strains of humans has been gone through, basically 100 times, well, 61 times. I think they said our DNA has been altered. Now, who has done that has always been the story in the route that we have going down when we get down into the rabbit hole of the truth when it comes down to our existence, but also for those of us who are reptilian truth seekers, do they exist? Or, well, I think we know they exist, but we just looking for more information. We want to confirm. We want an address. We want to know 202 Butterbean Street is a reptilian living down there. And then hopefully at some point one comes on the show, because they're already in the news. They're already out there every day. And supposedly there are some good ones and there are some bad ones. However, when you begin to see that the DNA structures is not just malfunctioning, but it reoccurs like an anomaly, like something out of a scientific or science movie, that we do have children, some born with scaly skins, some born with reptilian eyes. But when you're talking about a real tail, let's discuss that right now. Let's get into it. Let me get my notes out for you, and we'll just get right down into this story. All right, so this particular story is going to begin here, and make no mistake about it, we're not making fun of anyone's child. In fact, those parents have our true prayers when it comes down to seeing things like this. But however, this is a true story. In fact, you can go and look up this story at the National Library of Medicine, which is a government website, our government website. Go look it up. There is a link in the description of this video so that you will see the actually things that I'm going to be discussing with you here tonight. Now, there are several human activisms that reflect our common genetic heritage and with other mammals. Now, it starts out already talking about heritage and other mammals when we get down to this story. Now, it also says one of the most striking is the existence of rare, listen, and once again, let me verify this for you. This comes from the National Library of Medicine, a government website, the big secret keepers, okay? This is not coming off some conspiracy website. This is right here in plain sight. You can go and do it yourself. And as I always tell you, let me give you my disclaimers, my grammar boxes. If I say something that does not sound properly to you, you have the authority to go in here and get unlimited wording, anything you want to say from this virtual grammar box, because by the time it gets to your consciousness, it should sound properly. If I misspell anything that shows up on the screen or anywhere, unlimited letters. Please go in there and take those letters and correct everything for you, because I'm not scientific and I'm not a teacher. I'm just a truth seeker and now a truth speaker. One of the most striking parts in existence of this rare human, they call it a true human tale. True human tale. Now, it's a rare event with fewer than 40 cases reported in literature. Now, the authors of this particular report had a case of an infant that was born with a true tail, the picture that you're looking at here. A 3-month-old baby girl presented with an 11-centimeter long tail, which was successfully removed. We'll go over that in just a little bit. But we're talking about human embryos. Normally, what they're saying is that somehow we all have some type of prenatal tail, which disappears in the course of our embryonic genesis, is what they're calling by programmed cell closure. The cell just goes away. But recent advances in genetic research revealed that some of those organ loss or evolution in most species. Listen how they claim now we are species. Carry this genetic blueprints, and thus rarely the appearance of ancient organs like a tail may result in re-expressions or they're switched off the gene. So in other words, somehow this particular gene has been suppressed over human beings for quite some time. And so therefore, this is why it rarely shows up. But however, when the right moments, in the right time, Mother Nature has a way of doing things. Now, what they said was, on examination, there was an elongated, soft, non-tender mass with normal skin, color, texture, and temperature covered, located to the left of the natal cleft, or whatever they call it. That's the word I'm saying. Anyway, it was described measuring, once again, 11 centimeters. Now, no voluntary movement of this was observed in the mass, but it could freely move in all directions. It's a tail. It was a tail, all right? And they're also saying that the infant was born after an uneventful pregnancy with no antenatal history of illness, exposure to radiation, no intake of any drugs. This was a normal pregnancy, is what they're saying. And go look it up, National Library of Medicine, United States government. This is what they're saying. There was no family history of such or any other congenital anomalies or congenital anomalies. Anyway, y'all got the word. Anyway, after the complete perspective of the investigations, they also did a checkup on the child, and the child was taken to surgery. This is 3 months, okay? Imagine what the parents thought to have this situation going on, and this child is getting older and older. This thing is getting longer and longer. It's a tail growing on their child. Now, of course, I would assume that there was probably some issues between the parenting, like who is this? Where did this come from? Is this you or whatever? And they never sat there and thought about, okay, we're going to do this. And if they did, well, where did it come from? Who to blame? But if they start doing research and they start saying, okay, this is just an anomaly, because they do have a name for it. They call it caudal appendage. So that's the technical name that doctors want to use, but the government says it's a tail. Okay, that's what they're saying on that site. However, so you can imagine the parents going searching and looking for information. And of course, obviously, I'm assuming they would go to church and begin to pray. And all of a sudden, somebody whispers to them and let them know that, hey, wait a minute, in the Bible, there's references of the serpent. There's references of the reptile. There's references of Adam and Eve having scaly skin, right? There's references of ancient civilizations that reptiles exist, and in all cultures. Okay, dragons in the Chinese culture represent gargoyles, and all the reptilian thing exists. But would you think they would even think about that though? Would they even go there and like, what, are you kidding me? This is real? But it's in the word. The word is the word, because we know the Anunnaki or the Anu possibly was reptilian. Now we're finding this out through more research on elongated heads. Once again, all of the statues from all of the cultures. Now, for us that are thinking about race shapeshifters and reptilian hybrids, and this will be a little more getting us closer to some answers that something really exists when it comes down to this. So let me continue here. This was a normal anal tone. The infant was born. Now, what they said was that once they began to look deeper into this scenario, that's when they started thinking about genetics. This is when they started saying that, wait a minute, this cannot be happening on this type of level, that we're talking about something that's going on genetically when it comes down to this. And I know when some people saw this and maybe they really just didn't really understand, but once again, it is something for you to look at. Now, one of the things that you may be asking yourself, is this a isolated incident? Well, just hang around. I'm going to show you some other pictures in a few seconds that it's just not this one. There's many more of this that has been happening. And once again, they all said, now the discussion that they said that this tail was, well, actually, this is on the government site, said the protrusion with the skin covering a combination of muscle and tissue. It may be a true tail or pseudo tail, whatever they call it. Pseudo tails are lesions or various type coincidental found in the caudal regions of newborn and often associated with what they call a spinal column. However, true human tails is characterized by the complex arrangements of the connective tissues. Now, it goes on to say, and it comes all the way down here, and it starts saying that recent advances in genetic research reveals of those that most species carry genetic blueprints, and they're switched off and they remain in genetic storage. Why are they saying this? Why are they saying that most species could have this genetic blueprint turned off? Not saying that it's not there and it doesn't exist, that all of a sudden that their tail doesn't exist. So that means that you, me, all of us have some type of DNA, possibly, not all of us, but most people that have this reptilian DNA has tails or could throw a tail somewhere down the lineage if the right things happen at the right time, or those genes just decide to turn on. And that makes a lot of sense, because now let's take it back to the conspiracy side of this. If you study this and you watched enough of these videos that we do here, you know that the Illuminati, one of the things that you go back to the original Illuminati, which is all called blue bloods, and they do a lot of breeding, interbreeding marriages to maintain the blood of the reptilian blood. Now, there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because the more reptilian blood that exists within them, they're able to go back to the original form of shape-shifting. If they can't do that, now there's some other, insidious things that they have to do with humans, like the vampire stuff in order to activate these things. But however, the more of the bloodline that it does exist for this. So that does not mean that some of these children could not be born to some of them, right? Because they're carrying this a more percentage of reptilian blood than anyone else around. Who knows? And it's something that is probably quite normal. But once again, go look it up. Go look up the original Illuminati, the bloodlines from the Rockefellers all the way to some of the most prominent names out there. And I'm not talking about the Hovers and Jay-Z's and all. They are not original Illuminatis, okay? None of these people are. The Illuminati is by blood and blood only, and the ones that are in the secret society of the Illuminati are part of it because they're part of the faction, but they are not the original bloodline. They are not that. So you want to go make sure you understand that. And if you're part of our secret area that we have on Thursdays, y'all know that, and there's books and literatures in there that you can go and read that's going to point you right into that direction. So let's make no mistake about this part, but know that when we think about the Illuminati and then all the way back, now this goes all the way back to Africa. It goes all the way back to ancient civilizations. It just continues. And more people, I think, are starting to wake up to understand that there's more than meets the eye when it comes down to our existence, when it comes down to this. And that when you start hearing this reptilian shapeshifter stuff, and you thought at one point, which is as crazy as all get out, it can't get no more telling you that there's something that's happening when you want to see a baby that is born and have some of these genetic things that are showing up into the birth of this. Now, you might think that's enough. You might think it's enough, but once again, real quickly, go back and do your research, and you will see a lot of this depiction back into the past of that reptilians exist. So make sure you go and find it out very quickly and do that. Now, when I get Jasmine here shortly, she's going to go into a few things about these reptilians and tie it into all of these different lizards and stuff, right? And then how medical science is really paying even more close attention to that, how they're bringing things in perspective, when it comes to that. And it's something that, why would they do that? That's your question. Why would medical science find that, saliva and things and all these different lizards are working with humans, and it works for humans and healing capacities and all these different things? Maybe it's genetic. I don't know. And it's something that, allegedly we could say it's happening, but it's happening in real time. And so that's something that we can probably go look at it and find out and just get the true answers to our evolution and who we are. So I think that's important for us to think about it. And if that wasn't enough for you, let me give you another little hint, a clue here. Pheromones, and go look this up for yourself. You can go do it. Pheromones is a substance that is secreted, released by animals so they can detect the members of the same species. I call this a fun fact, but okay. The pheromones in a human woman and iguanas is a chemical match. Let me say that again. The pheromones in the reptile of the lizard reptile is the same pheromones that you beautiful women emits out that attracts men or the same species to you. And go look it up. It's a fun fact to go look up. Don't that make you wonder? Don't stuff like that make you go like, what? Are you kidding me? Yeah. So when that sexy whatever comes up and she says, hi, Roderick, and I'm going, whew, she's letting the lizard out. She's letting the reptilian out of her. She's letting the pheromones and the whatever, that tail, we can't see that tail, but that tail is just shoots, just letting it out. And we're just sitting there with our noses going, and you wonder why. Well, once again, it's a exact chemical match with the iguanas. Now, we could say, okay, Rod, God created those iguanas as much as he created us. And so, okay, he knew what he was doing. But also maybe he had a baseline recipe. Maybe God did have a recipe into everything. And I think he did, because if you think about it, I don't care what it is, animals, birds, mouse, roaches, I think maybe they all got two eyes, a nose, some ears, and a mouth. So obviously that format worked all across the board, right? And so why wouldn't the DNA of everything else work unless you go back to the Bible, and the Bible says God was a little angry of those pesky other people that came in and started messing with our genetics. And therefore, he sent that serpent and a great dragon into the ground. So maybe that's what it was. And maybe that is something that you can think about it. And we would just kind of go from there. And pretty much. All right. So anyway, like I said, we will have the greatness of Jasmine here in a moment, and she will get into what we call the J report, and just see the details and how she went down this rabbit hole of learning. But before we get to that, let me kind of let you know, again, this is not really an isolated. So I want to, if you got children, you might not want them to see some of these pictures that I'm about to put on the screen. Okay. So I want to kind of give you a forewarning about that, so that you know where we stand and pretty much from there. All right. So here's a photo of another baby that had a tail that began to grow from here. Here's a infant that was born, which they know the tail is getting ready to come out because they can see it. And this is probably a Deo or Preemie or whatever this baby is, but the tail is already evident that this is happening. Here's another one here that has a tail that comes out, and pretty much. So once again, this is not something that we would do this. Now, through some of the research that I found, that there are occasions that some of these people that in some of these third world countries, that there are reports that they don't have the medical science to get the tail off. And so there are people that are grown walking around with full tails. And I was reading that into the research, and that is something that I would just say, whoa, especially if that was someone you met and, I don't know, decide to go out on a date with or something. I don't know. But I do have sympathy for their families and the anguish and the ridicule, or if they're getting any, that how cruel that people can be when it comes down to this. And there was other photos that I was going to bring up, but I just felt that there was a need to go. I think I made my point on some of the things that you're seeing already. Now, we can go into any part of the history of what we're talking about, but at the end of the day, let it be known that this is not something that they didn't take care of. So anyway, they did have the surgery here, as you can see on the screen. They did remove the tail from this 3-month-old little girl, and then actually, they said during the follow-up she recovered perfectly. And why not, right? Because it's not an anomaly. It's almost like it was something that they were saying that they could just have removed, and of course, at this point, was something that they decided to do when it comes down to this. And so, again, it just makes you wonder. It really does. It makes you wonder when it comes down to the stories of shapeshifters and the reptilian race, and do all of this is real. And at the end of the day, you got people who would just, call most of us just crazy. They would tell us that we're crazy across the board when it comes down to this. But once again, we're getting closer and closer to some of these truths, until I think one day we will have a reptilian here on the show. And like I said, coming up, I'm gonna play the audio for you. We did have someone that called in, a few people that called in, and we have people that called in from our hotline, a reptilian hotline, and they quickly decided to let us know they're out there. They're out there, and you're going to hear the audio, and you can listen to the story. And bear in mind that, this is a safe place here. And when you hear people's story, all I want you to do is, post your comments, and all that stuff. But just know that this is real when it comes down to this, and it's something that we need to continue. Once again, to hang on one quick second. Yeah, all right. So once again, we are on the look, right? We're getting closer and closer to what I call the truth when it comes down to this. And it's something that, you know, as we go further and further, we have to then decide for ourselves, you know, do reptilians exist? Now, if we can start seeing what we're seeing here on the screen, that genetically, and once again, this is not, some of us can say, Roderick, this is some birth defect. The government site, if the link is in the description, I'm going to keep reiterating that tonight. It's in the description of this video. There is a description in the video, a link that takes you to the national website of medicine. And that website is our U.S. government medicine. And this whole article is sitting there. And they're sitting there talking about this, and they call it a true tale. The words is right here. Why would they do that? They didn't call it something else. And once again, this is a normal pregnancy. This is because I'm getting closer to thinking, when we start hearing about the reptilian agenda, it is worth us looking into. Now, in the future, I plan, and if you are a pastor and you someone out there as well, and you want to take and participate in one of our shows, we would love to go over some of the scriptures that are in the Bible that reference these great dragons and the serpents and all of these things, to kind of see, well, is this not making any sense? Or does it make sense that someone has been telling us all along that there are some things out there that we need to know about? But why the big secret, right? Why keep it a secret? Well, maybe there's some hidden truth, and maybe there's some information that we need to know or need to understand that makes things better for us to really try to understand. So I think it's in all of our best interest to begin to go down this route. Let me check on Jazz and see what's going on with her. And pretty much, let me see here. Jazz, if you're listening, I see you in the studio, your camera is turned off. And so when you turn it on, I'll bring you up on the screen, and pretty much. And so we will, you know, again, let's just, I'm going to bring up a few more photos while she's getting her camera worked on down there and pretty much doing this. But once again, too, this caller came in, this reptile call, and we'll play that afterwards. And I want you to listen to the story of this lady and what was going on with her when she had her encounter. And just real quickly, if you have a reptilian experience, there you go. That's our hotline. Make sure you call that number. You can leave a message 24 hours. You can recording and all of that, and it will work for you, and pretty much from there. All right. So welcome to the stage here. We have the great of Jasmine with the Conspiracy Cowgirls. And then we call this the J Report, y'all, because
J
I mean,
Report.
You
J
said?
Report, for sure.
The J Report. There we go, for show. And she did some deep stuff, and she sent me some information on these different lizards and how they apply to us. But before we get into all of that, did you get an opportunity to see some of those pictures? I can put them back on the screen for you.
I did. I saw a couple of them, but I mean, we talked about this yesterday, and it is just so crazy. And biologically, that is, those tails are, and they are tails. And
Yep.
once they are removed, so every human is born with a tail.
Yes.
But it just turns into the coccyx bone.
Mm.
It is reabsorbed by the body and turns into the tailbone. That's why it's called the tailbone, because each of those tails.
There you go. Word magic, right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's basically just reabsorbed by the body, but then there is the ones that are not, and they are born with the longer tails, and that is evolution. That is, we cannot deny the relationship between reptiles and humans. We share a lot of the same biological functions as reptiles.
Now, let me ask you a question. All right. So let's say that God, you know, of course, he's the formulator of all of this. And and we all, like you just said, we share some of the DNA principles of it. All right. But however, when he made man, he perfected his craft, right? We were this perfect thing. But somewhere on another planet, he started and he made a reptilians, right? Who long before he got to be able to perfect our crap of us, because he's been working on this thing. And if you go to all the animal species, Jasmine, the format is there: 2 eyes, a nose. I don't care if it's a roach, a spider, a bug, or whatever. That two eyes and ears and a nose and a mouth was the formula to begin with.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, I'm gonna keep perfecting this stuff, and then he made beauty like yourself and handsome like me. And he said that was good. Right?
Said, that's enough. We have the blueprint.
That shit is good. I made a Roderick, and that is some good shit, right? So at this point, but long time ago, he made some reptilians long before us who advanced in technology, who advanced in all of this intellect. Or I can't say intellect because we're probably a little past. That's why they fear us. But they did, and then they came here. Like the Anunnaki story. They came here and they saw that man, Enki, Enlil, all of the stories says, let's make us some slave races is the story. And then of course the sister said, what you seek is already there. And at that time, supposedly we wasn't procreating. Well, anyway, they decide to tamper and cross genetic this thing, in which ultimately the creator was pissed off, is what I read. And he says, how dare y'all? I'm going to cast you. Now we're hearing stories of angels, supposedly is what we, so I'm going to cast you. And he didn't say onto the earth, because I was reading that spiritually and he said into the earth. Right. So that means that they reside down there. And then he said, I also cast those other demon folks with them. So they take you and whatever with you and whatever. So they're into the earth. Now they're in here. And they're saying we need to get up there. And they start finding that through subconscious, this negativity, this lower level of vibration is a portal. And some of these humans are opening up those doors by emitting this lower level vibration. So I'm just going down this timeline here. So all of a sudden, they figure out that, man, and once we get up there, wait a minute, they're going to recognize us. They can see us, and we're not that pretty, right? And so therefore, how do we do this? Well, why don't we crossbreed? Because some of those women are cute. And all of a sudden, once again, the mighty man upstairs is pissed to the highest of festivity now. Right? He's mad. And now there's a war. Okay, we hear in this story. But all along, over time, we then get introduced to the money power of the Illuminati. And the blue bloods, right? That's where the conspiracy comes in. So the Illuminati is like, okay, we are trying to figure out this control mechanism. And the one way we can control these humans is the mind. That's the most sophisticated computer that they have. Let's tamper with this. But how do we do this? We have to put up a whole system to make sure that we can manipulate their minds. We need to figure something out. Well, they're already seeing stuff from the stars and they think they're gods. And just because we flew in on our spacecraft, we must be gods. And so they're bound to us, right? So we can keep that one up. And since they really don't know the truth about what's really happening, where the moon is real or all this stuff, we can just, put some stuff together. But we need to get the best control mechanism of them all. And that is create what we call the watchers. And we got to instill that they're being watched everywhere. It's kind of like this movie, The Congo, was a movie of these apes, and they went to back and take this ape back. And when they went into this pyramid, it was writings all over the wall. And they thought the descriptions were, we are watching you. And really, the guy says, no, they carved this in the wall so the apes will read that we are watching you. Everywhere you are, we are watching you. It's kind of like a symbolism stuff. I'm just going on this quick rant. However, they create this story that we are being watched everywhere we go, all while we go, by this person, this God who says, I'm checking everything y'all do, and we need to make sure you're being watched. But you got to stay kind, you got to stay whatever, and you got to pay your bills, stuff that
do the right thing.
Cause anxiety, right? Keep that low energy. But you got to do you got to follow all this stuff if you want to get up here.
Yeah.
And you want to come up here where we are, and that's where you're going to really live. So down there, don't worry about it. Don't try to get rich. Don't worry about it down there, because money ain't everything. However, Jasmine, I rated right up there with oxygen. And
Literally.
you know, they turn around and says, well, you're trying to get up here and you're going to spend the rest of your life, but we're watching you. And we developed this thing called religion. I didn't say spirituality. It's two different.
Yeah.
So we developed this thing with religion, and we're going to make this be the ultimate system to keep people in check. Now, we all believe that religion is working, because I grew up under religion as well. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But then we start thinking about the hierarchy of the religion. So they said, we're going to put together these church groups, and let's put these churches together. And then these churches are going to give the word, because the word is the word. And I never could figure out growing up, Jazz, why I would go to church and the man in the front would stand up, and he would tell all of us to stand up. And then he will say, turn to page such and such. And we all turn to page such and such. And he begins to read it as though he knows something I don't know. And I got to sit there and read exactly verbatim of what he says. And then when he's finished, he says, now they're costing you 10%. I need you to put it over here. And I'm like, no, I could pay this tithes in my own house.
Yeah.
5 of us living here. So there's 2 or more people make a congregation, right? And the Lord could be over there. He could be over here, right?
Literally.
You know what I'm saying?
His house is wherever you make it.
There we go. So now we go down this path. And so we take it back to the Illuminati. Says, okay, now we can control people. We can make sure they're monitoring themselves by being watched by the God that's keeping them on track, that they're seeing that he's sleeping. And never mind, he's not watching you when you have sex and doing all this other crazy stuff.
Right.
But he's only watching you when you think he's watching, but he's not watching all the time, because I'm sure he's seen some crazy stuff.
Oh, for sure.
You get what I'm saying? So I'm just
Especially
using
in the back of an Uber on a Friday night. I'm just saying.
There you go. And we tend to not think about all of this, because I'm getting ready to drop a bombshell. This is where I'm going with this. When we go and look at the representation of the church, and it goes all the way back to the Vatican, who is supposed to be the most holiest place on the planet. But yet they pray in Snake Hall, right? Reptilian Hall.
Yeah.
They got reptilian stuff all over the place. And everybody in the planet knows, possibly, allegedly, that these are shapeshifters. But they don't get the connection that shapeshifter stuff comes all the way back to the church right here on the corner in Dallas, because they're guiding them. And the greatest trick that the devil ever pulled is to make us think he doesn't exist. And why wouldn't the reptilians play the role that they have set in motion and then go, oops, when we get a baby born with a damn tail?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is like, I have all these
right there. Oops, a baby was born with a tail.
Yeah. And they just write it off as, oh, well, it just didn't get reabsorbed by the body. But the fact is that there's tons of cases, proven cases of babies being born. The tail does not reabsorb. Why? Why did the tail not reabsorb? Why are these tails so long? The coccyx bone is not very long. I mean, it's maybe a couple of inches, if that. So why are these tails being grown like the last one that you showed? That was what, a foot long? That tail was like a foot long. So I have some of these notes here. And so here's the thing, is that humans and reptiles, we share core vertebrate traits, hormonal pathways, receptors, and immune responses. That sure is that part. Yes. Look at the 2 tails. That tail is long, and that giant lizard man, his nails are he's like a baby Godzilla.
There you go. Yeah.
So we look at the evolutionary biology and biochemical universality, right? And the compounds that are naturally activating in systems that we've both evolved with, right? So like the Gila monster, snake venom, frogs are used for pain relief and wart treatment. Komodo dragons have antimicrobial resistance. Gila monsters are used for weight loss treatments,
Mm.
the saliva in the Gila monster. And so it's just really interesting to me that there's this biological overlap, and nobody really talks about that part of it. Nobody questions, why does this work and where is it coming from?
Mm.
Well, a lot of these treatments are coming from reptiles.
Now
Not that
you sent me a list of different reptiles, right?
oh yeah,
All right,
we
let me
have
make sure
quite
I
the
got it,
list.
and I'm gonna put the picture of each one of them first. So let me know when you're
Perfect.
ready, and then I'll start with the first photo.
Okay, perfect. So we have the reptilian lore and symbolism here, and I'm gonna also send you that. But um, you know, reptiles are associated with knowledge, duality, and transformation. And when I hear transformation, I hear the first word that comes to mind is shape shifting.
Yeah.
hmm So I believe that somehow biologically, with through evolution, we have ourselves shape shifted.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So you throw those pictures up whenever you want.
All right.
You
So the
throw any of
first
that up.
one I have is the Gila monster. Let it
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Gila monster is interesting. So the Gila monster that's where the saliva from the Gila monster, it contains something called exindin 4, and it mimics a human hormone that is the base of how people gain or lose weight. So when they use that saliva that is in these products that you're showing, that is what resets your system, so that way you're more not so insulin resistant, your body levels out the sugars that it's taking in. And so there's metabolic signaling between reptiles and humans, and that is part of it. So the question is,
So you're saying that it's the reptilian in us that's why it's working.
yes.
Okay, keep going. All right.
So
I'm just asking.
it raises this question: is this a naturally shared pathway or evidence of a unique biological overlap?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I will think that, all right, once again, it's all in the world of conspiracy of where we come from, which is
Yes.
I think pretty soon we won't be called conspiracy people. We'll be actual truth, right? And because now what's happening, most of these conspiracy stories are absolutely true.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part these days, because now when you hear something, it's like where I grew up, and somebody walk up to you and say, well, the word on the street. And when it's really the word on the street, then you know it's the truth. Because the word there is no fake stuff when it's the word on the street. The word on the street,
Yeah.
the girl you with, Roderick, is a whatever, and be like, damn, because
Listen,
the word on the street.
it's the
And
word
that's
on the
it.
street.
And
Listen, the word on the street, when I was a kid, the neighbors, they liked to sell stereos that were not stereos that were bought. And it turned out that they really did like to do that. But that was the word on the street.
that's the word on the street. So we're gonna start beginning to say, and maybe we need to do that. Maybe we need to change a new term here on the show instead of conspiracy theory, the word on the street. How about that?
Word on the street is.
Why don't we adapt that? I'm gonna put that in a glossary of words in the future. That when they hear the word on the street, they got to know it's the word on the street that's coming from us. All right, so I have another lizard theme, which is the Komodo dragon.
The Komodo dragon. And this lizard is actually giant. I don't know if you've ever seen videos of these lizards. Not only are they big, but they are fast. So the Komodo dragon, here's the deal with them. The blood of the Komodo dragon contains antimicrobial peptides. They are studying it to have use. I'm gonna have to word this carefully. Usage in healing facilities for next generation antibiotics and global resistance concerns. So when you are getting the shot, you will not there will not be a resistance that is developed
because of the reptilian saliva or whatever they're, or
for
whatever
it's
that
their
part is from
blood,
the
the
blood.
Komodo dragon's blood.
Yeah, and you would think that the body, as sophisticated as it is, could fight off anything that's unnatural, and so
Mhm.
therefore it accepts the reptilian stuff, and it's like,
Right.
okay, welcome home, appreciate you, and we would do that. What about this next
Yeah.
little pesky little things that some people take for granted, and they hear them every day outside their house? The
Me.
frog, the little frog.
Me. Frogs. I love frogs. They're so great. They have such big personalities. But okay, so I have frogs have their skin will produce certain secretions, and those secretions sometimes have medical potentials, right? So they offer pain relief, and if you've ever had a wart, they have some frog venom actually gets rid of warts.
Mm.
So they provide there's a secretion that they have that is 200 times stronger than morphine. And some people who are addicts and they go into treatment, they use combo, which is another secretion secreted by a rainforest, an Amazonian tree frog, and they call it combo. And the
Wow.
combo will help people detox, but it also helps people see visions, and it rids the body of trauma, which is
Now,
insane.
all of this is allegedly, of course, right?
Allegedly,
Yeah, yeah,
that's what people, the word on the street is.
yeah. There we go. Word on the street. So we have to use that
Yeah.
because we will know shortly when this thing is over with. Either a notice will come and say, and we're just talking about frogs.
It's just
You know,
frogs.
we're just
It's
talking about
hearsay.
frogs.
It's the word on the street.
Word on the street. We're talking about frogs. All right.
And
So
it's
here's a.
all readily available information on the internet. So nothing is like, oh, I think this is it. This is just readily available information on the internet. And that's where I got it from. So,
That's where we got it from. All right. What
yep, yep, yep,
about
yep.
snake venom?
Yeah, snake venom. So snake venom is interesting, right? Like who wants to um I remember a scene in a movie of somebody taking a shot of snake venom, and I always thought to myself, why would they do that in other countries? But then so snake venom impacts blood pressure, nerve signals, and helps with clotting. It has inhibitors for high blood pressure, and that inhibitor is derived from pit viper venom. Other venom proteins show promise in the C word in the body and cell targeting research. So they've long represented wisdom, healing, but also danger in many cultures. So it's interesting that the Vatican and a lot of other places has all this snake symbolism.
Well, the reptilian symbolism. I think
Right.
it's pretty much that what they're saying without saying, "Hey, this is who we are." But
Yeah.
now when we think about it from that standpoint, so we're gonna shift over to the word on the street now, and really go that route. So now let's take it all the way back to the Illuminati's,
Mm-hmm.
and let's start there. And a lot of, like I've said it before, and I've said, and matter of fact, before I go there, because it just hit me. You're a woman, so let me put this screen back up.
Oh, yes.
The pheromone,
Yes. 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 Yes.
the
Yes.
pheromones in the woman that you ladies put off. Let me then say in a woman, you are a woman. It matches the iguana, and it's almost like a woman shaking her tail.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. 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 I mean, if we have if we have so much of the same hormonal pathways, receptors, and immune responses, and our and our endocrine systems are the same. I mean, it's just, and that's hormonal. Endocrine is hormonal system. So that would make perfect sense if the Gila monster and a woman are putting off the same pheromones, which is so strange to me, but who knew? It's the word on the street.
The word on the street, and they put it in perfume and stuff too. I think smell good.
Yeah.
Pheromones. I think they're
Yeah. They
doing
have pheromone perfumes. You can get them online, and I wonder if that is what is in them. Gila monster. I'm like, just call
Yeah.
me Gila. I'm changing my name to Gila.
Hey, well, there you go. All I can say is that it is that. And all right, so word on the street, we're talking about these Illuminati, these original. So why would, in your opinion, why are they hiding all this stuff? In other words, you think about now that it's in plain sight on one end. So you got ancient cultures that are depicting all of this reptilian heritage. We have our religious institutions in the Bible itself talks about it, but it says it's the most negative thing, right? And then, of course, the Vatican over here, who's supposed to be the most positive of it all, or the head of the honcho, which they're probably the mafia themselves, allegedly. But the other part of this is, so on one hand, over here on the lower parts is negative. The serpent reptilian stuff is negative, and over here they're like all hell the cobra, and then you have the Illuminati who do a lot of interbreeding, and then you start thinking about all of the presidents, are related. A lot of people don't know that, even Barack is related to Trump.
Yeah.
The rest of them.
I mean, they're all,
they
and that goes all the way down to governments. That goes all the way down to local politicians.
Yeah, and they're cousins, by the way, y'all.
Yeah.
So when you are here thinking left and right, and you warring with somebody over what the left did and the right did, they are the same team, and they're
really
family. They're a freaking family, related family.
Yeah.
Just let you know that. And so it's like we've been not just hoodwinked, not just hoodwinked, but it's like, man, we don't care. We can just put it in their faces and they won't know it because we got a plan. And that plan is entertainment, bills, banking, life, all of these things to create this energy so that their eyes cannot see what we're doing and what is happening. And we're going to do this. But just every now and then, Mother Nature says, I'm going to send a clue and let y'all know this is what it is, because there is one animal on the planet. I've told people that the alien, when we were studying some stuff, she said it. She said, let you know that, you all was just kind of this creation thing. There's one animal on the planet that we put here to give humans a notice, and that is the duck-billed platypus. And y'all go look at this thing. It's got web feet. It's got a beaver tail, a duck beak. Ducks and beavers can't cross, but yet we got an animal that's crossed between all of these, sitting here walking around, living and laying eggs, but having live babies, or however they call it. But it's eggs, but they're live babies, or they're mammals or whatever, and defies all logic.
Yeah,
just like pyramids defy all logic. And we get people that think we're crazy when we say, and I'm going to play that call a little later, of the lady who saw a shapeshifter. And in her story, she actually kissed the thing. Okay. And so, why are people just so blind to this, Jazz? Why?
Well, I think that people don't understand that the reptilian agenda is they are the hidden controllers, where the Illuminati are the visible agents.
Okay.
They're the ones that are manipulating public consciousness. And the reptilians are the ones benefiting from that.
Okay. Yeah.
So that goes back to the MK Ultra mind control, right? So the Illuminati, I do believe they are under some form of MK Ultra mind control from the reptilians. Why wouldn't they be?
Right. And it makes a lot of sense, when they go there. Someone in the chat says Jazz is wearing a Pebble shirt. I don't know what that means. What is Pebble?
Pebbles, not the girl, not the singer from the 90s. It's my dog. It's my dog.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
I'm obsessed with my dog.
no, you're not. Not compared to the girl who wrote that.
Oh, yes. Is that what she said?
Judith, her dog name is Sean. That's his name. Not even Pebbles.
Oh.
His name is Sean J. Henson or whatever her last name.
So cute.
And yeah, he has. Now I fell into the rat. I bought that dog some bling bling dog bows.
Oh,
I had to have him because this dog, he gets on spas. She sent him on vacations. When she go out of town, she sent him to doggy hotels.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, this dog is just whatever, and I mean, he's that, and so y'all can. We would have to let y'all go at it. Who got the dog?
Yeah, you send me a message and we'll talk about our dogs.
Yeah, well, she can do it. In fact, she's gonna pull a fast one on you. She's just gonna hand her dog the phone. You're gonna be talking to the dog.
I'm gonna be like woof 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 woof.
No. This dog, I know I've heard noises, and I'll be like, "Hey, what's going on?" Oh, she'll say that's my son, and I know her son is married. He's somewhere else. That dog is talking. I know that dog.
That's awesome.
But anyway, that's my friend, and she got the dog and everything else. All right, so the word on the street, we're talking about shapeshifters now, and I don't think a lot of people know why they call them shapeshifters and why there's a difference, because there's a difference between the shapeshifters and then there's a difference between the reptilian hybrids. And the reasons why the shapeshifters shapeshift. And then also there's this rumor of reptilians that are really, because we see the malfunctions on the news, they're like really standing behind like a puppet master of this human.
Oh, I've seen that.
Like they're using some technology and they're just sitting behind it, guiding the stuff,
Yeah.
So now we got all these different stories of reptilians. So what do you think about all that? So we have the originals, and then of course in our meeting I told people who the alpha reptilian is, the king, we call him the alpha or whatever. But why is all of this? And do you think are all of them good though? Because I'm starting to read that there are some good reptilians out here.
I definitely think, just there's good and bad. There's, in every animal kingdom, everything, right? There's animals that are not carnivorous. There's animals that are carnivorous. And it's the same thing with humans, right? There's going to be I don't know how a reptilian would survive without loosh. They definitely need the energy, but I do believe that in order to keep the bloodline pure, to guarantee shape shifting, they have to feed energetically on, the energy. So I don't know how that would be like good and bad, but I'm sure that there are, there's a what is it, a pyramid of control, just like there is with the Illuminati and everything else, and where we put the reptilian, where we put the footman for the Illuminati, everything. I'm sure there's the reptilian species has that same pyramid of power.
Well, what and let me tag on to what you said here. Now, what I've been told, and even some of the books though, the ones that shapeshift are the ones that like to drink our little red stuff, our Kool-Aid.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah.
They need that to shapeshift. The ones who are living off the loosh are just the ones who can't come up here. They're down they're in that other dimension, like the unconscious dimension of the fifth or whatever, the lower vibration.
For the fear and all that.
Yeah. So they're living off energies, but the ones that's that's up here on the top that need, and it so happens that there is a honor for the ones who are able to shapeshift back into their original form, is why they, try to do all this interbreeding, trying to find the most purest of the blood, because the higher of the blood of the reptilian blood, then combine that with, having a good drink of blood, then that allows them to be able to go into the shapeshift back into those dimensions. And there's only a few of them that is pure enough to do that. And supposedly, so there's a lot of difference. It's almost like a hierarchy of, hey, I'm a little more pure than you are, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a little more of this than you are. But maybe we can, so it's one of those things that I think they're constantly after. But what I'm also finding out through the studying is that it's a certain lineage of people. Now we can talk about, in another show, RH negative blood. We will actually do a show on that in the future, but it is a lineage of people that they have always seeking and are seeking and trying to find out who and what is going on. And, I just think it's something, I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah. I think and I think that we are in a place now where if we are constantly asking questions, that's what we have to be doing. We constantly have to be asking questions, because anything that we are seeing, really, we have to say, how is this related to the reptilian agenda? And I think that every time somebody new opens their eyes, that frequency goes up, right? So we are no longer just stuck in a low vibrational state. Every time somebody questions, well, why did that happen that way? Or what is this, thing that I'm reading about that is a system that is designed to keep people at a lower vibrational state? I want to find out why. Who's doing that? As soon as people start to ask those questions, the vibration goes up and it doesn't stay at a lower state. So every person is like contributing to elevating the vibration, which they suffocate if the vibration isn't low. It's like the opposite, right? Like you would think like the vibration is low, that would suffocate, but it's us that's suffocating with a low vibration. So when it raises, it's doing the exact opposite and suffocating them.
So do you think that when we start thinking about it right now, where, when we see things like these kids that are born, do you think that's getting us closer? Because we're going to forever be looking for this reptilian truth, but
maybe.
Or would people still walk away and say that's just a birth defect? I mean, technically it could be, right? Based upon the norm, right? Or do Mother Nature make those mistakes? Because reason being, let me find here, because I was looking and I have a couple of quick little photos. Like this young man plays professional sports, and he literally, this is him. This is no AI.
What?
He literally, he plays sports in another country, and this is him.
Wild.
And look at that slit. He's walking this earth, and I have his name in there, but he actually exists. This is not an AI photo, y'all. This young man exists. He definitely exists. So did this guy.
Yeah, so did that guy.
Yeah.
That guy.
You know what I mean? And they're walking,
Hybrid.
and he done said many occasions that he's not real and slip up and say it.
Oh, yeah.
So, but can people handle the truth, though, when it comes down to those things? Because I think if people start really looking at it, what do you...
I think that people are getting to a place, and I'm not saying this that it's a horrible thing, but I'm also saying it but I think people are becoming, there's so much information out there, and it's coming at such a lightning speed that people are desensitized. Like something will happen one day and everybody's like, oh my God. And then 3 days later, something else happens. So when that bad thing happened, something even worse is happening 3 days later. So if you go back, like, oh, that wasn't that bad. This is really bad. So I think that people are just slowly but surely becoming desensitized. So much so that, I mean, at this point, if I saw that kid and he walked up to me, I'd be like, "Hey, what's up? That's a pretty cool looking eye." You
Yeah, I
know?
mean,
I don't think
and
I would be like, "Oh my God, you're a reptilian! I found one." You-
there'll be some people. I mean, there'll be some people who will look at him and they'll be like,
Hell no.
shoot. They'll be like, no, I'm going the other way. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
They'll be like, did you see that eye? You want to go talk to him?
Hell no.
And then
People are-
then there's me. I would be like, "So let's have a talk about your eye."
yeah,
When did you first realize you had a reptile's eye?
yeah, no. Yeah,
That's funny.
we'll be doing. All right. So what I'm gonna do, Jazz, is I want you to go in the studio and then I'm gonna play the audio of the lady and her
Okay.
reptilian experience from
Oh, yes.
our call.
Okay.
And then I'll bring you back up. We'll talk about it a little bit before we get out of here. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right. So what I'm getting ready to do now, you all, is as you know, we have a hotline. So for those of you who are watching us and you are a reptilian, you are welcome to call this number and share your experience. And maybe you know, and maybe you don't know. But the story you're about to hear now is a young lady. She tells her story, and she called on a hotline, of course. And I've gotten several calls, so I'm turning a lot of these audios over to you all. But anyway, that number's on the screen for those of you who want to check it out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play the call audio. I shorten it up a little bit because we did talk a little while, but to the main core points is about 4 to 5 minutes of the audio, and it's all entertaining for you, so you're going to hear it. And so I hope you all are ready to hear this. And let me find the audio and make sure I did load it up for you all to hear. All right, let's go.
In the Hausa, but that language.
All right, then. Okay. All right. Well, appreciate you calling.
Yeah, I don't want you to give my name on, if you decide to share the story. I don't want this person to find me knowing that I'm outing him, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, back in 2010, I was living in New York City. I'm a native New Yorker. And I was living in a fairly upper class neighborhood, mostly white people. So I went online on Craigslist and put in a post that I wanted to meet somebody, preferably black in the area. So this man responds, of course he's white, and he says that he was about 62 then, and I'm 62 now. He was 62 then. So I don't remember how old I was back in 2010. Do you want to do the math? Anyway, so I said, okay, I think it was in my 50s. But anyway, I think 50s. But anyway, so he says that he's from Europe, France, and, he lives in New York, and he's close by in the area, and, we should meet, And I said, okay, fine. He sounds interesting, and I immediately knew he was a reptilian. How do I know? Briefly, I've been working in Manhattan since I was 18 years old, all the way up until I was about 49, okay? And so I've seen people, I've seen creatures, I've seen all kinds of people masking as humans. You know what I'm saying? They're everywhere. They are all around you. They exist. I mean, they're hybrids, all kinds of stuff. And especially in New York City, you just can't, you look at people on the train, on the bus, walking up and down the street, and you know who's human and who's not. But anyway, so I knew him automatically. I said, I bet you he's reptilian. Sure enough, and I said, I'm definitely having this experience because I always wanted to prove it to myself that they're really real. So we go out on the first date. Everything's fine. He's real interesting. Nice suit on. Took me to a nice restaurant. We had a lovely conversation, the whole nine. So then, second date, we go on. This time we go to hear jazz music. I picked the place, whatever. We had a nice time out. And We get back. He's bringing me home in a cab. We get out of my apartment building, and I decide I'm going to kiss him. I kiss him, and there is a snake tongue in my mouth. This man is 6'2", older white man, slightly balding. He says that he is from French royalty. His parents are. He doesn't have the title his parents do. I called up one of my spiritual teachers, and I was like, and I said when he pulled his head back, I was looking at his tongue because he has a normal human tongue. But when he kissed me, it was a serpent's tongue in my mouth. Can't mistake the difference. They're so completely different. So I just wanted to let folks know they're out there. I mean, I've worked in many corporations. I've had supervisors and people, presidents and CEOs, and they're not human. You can tell. And another way to tell is if you touch them, if you get a chance, I did because the man held me. But more often than not, you wouldn't get a chance to just actually be talking and touching people. But their skin kind of moves. Like if you touch yourself, your skin is attached to whatever fat or meat or muscle is underneath it. But when you touch a reptilian, the skin kind of sits like a layer on top of their actual skin or body, whatever. And he's the second person I've met who I touched whose skin did that. The first person was, this was back in, 2000. Yeah, 2000, I think. He was black guy, very light skinned. His father owned a funeral parlor. He didn't want to go into that business when his dad died, so I think he sold it. And then he wanted to become a, what do you call it? He worked for Smith Barney. So, he wanted to sell products to Smith Barney. And he said that, they didn't treat him right because he was black, even though he looked white. He was black. And that, that's how they treated people in general. He made a big stink about it and wound up in the newspaper. And of course, lost his job and kicked out of that industry. And he also dated a newscaster, Rolando Watt, back in the day. And actually, I don't even remember his name because that was another brief incident. But I remember touching his chest.
All right. So I just played y'all part of that call. And as you heard the beginning of the first story and everything else, we actually had a longer, detailed conversation. And I've gotten about 7 calls in the last probably since we started putting the hotline out. There's a couple of them out there that, was some major stories, and there are some stories. And I plan on showing those or playing those as we go further down this particular part. But I think we got to get to a point where we have to trust the witnesses, right? Because it's to a point now where, people think somebody's saying something crazy. But if you start looking at all the aspects of this world and all the things that goes on, then it is perfectly okay that, man, there's some just unbelievable stuff around here, right? And so when you begin to hear flat earthers, or you begin to hear the firmament, or you begin to aliens, or somebody's, taking somebody in the middle of the night, or all of these things in this particular world that we're in. And then over at another side of the world, we got, pyramid structures that are built, and we have nothing to move them today. We don't have anything to do all those things. And then yet we have civilizations that's just up and leave. Let me get Jasmine back in here with us so that we could, let me take this thing down, Jasmine. Hang on one second. So first of all, we'll kind of stay with her first part of her story, going out the Craigslist. And if anybody didn't know, the Craigslist back in the day, it still exists today, but it was really popular years back, where you can do dating ads, you can do hookups,
Everything.
There was people selling all kinds of stuff, tailbones. They were selling tailbones, like like it wasn't nothing, like it was hotcakes, and it was just right there on Craigslist, right? And so it's not uncommon that you hear somebody say, I'm going to go, and people using dating apps today anyway, right? So we know that still exists. But for her to, now the other part that I felt that was interesting, Jazz, was that she's in New York. Now we know every movie depicts that everything you can think of lives in New York City. And if you were going to come here from another country, that's the perfect place to blend in.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of weird things there, right? You can just walk. It's thousands of people walking, and
thousands.
You can just walk by, and somebody wouldn't even notice you, and who's looking at each other anymore, right? So it's like back on Planet Xeron. Hey man, just make sure you drop yourself off in China or New York City.
Yeah.
And 2 places you're going to be able to walk around, and they're not even see you.
Yeah. And New York is just wild anyway. I mean, I've been to New York so many times, and there's just so many people. And honestly, everybody's in their own little world. So even if there was somebody standing on the corner shape shifting, I want to say that people would stop and notice, and maybe 1 or 2 people would, but I feel like a lot of people would just be like, there was nobody there. You're crazy, And I think that's the real issue, is that nobody believes anybody anymore,
Right?
because there's so much information.
Well, what do you think of the story?
I think that it's really interesting. I feel like when people are experiencing these types of situations, and they're having the courage to come forward and talk about it, it's like listening to them it kind of soothes a spot in my soul, because I feel like a lot of us in our community, we really do question, and we look at people with intent. We don't just walk past people every single day. I look at people every single day, and I'm just like, I would love it if I had that experience. I would love some kind of experience like that to confirm that I'm like, I knew it.
I don't know. You know what? You're not the only one that I'm not saying. Whoa. Let me make sure I make this clear. You're not the only one that I hear that want that experience. I don't want it. Okay.
That's so weird. I know.
And there's a
You
lot
just
of people
want
do.
proof of it.
I mean, and I'm not saying that you all you remember the movie Independence Day?
Yes.
Remember the lady on top of the roof? They're opening it up, and boom.
Yeah, take me.
Yeah, and then boom, right?
I'm good.
So, I don't know about that deal, but what I'm saying is, it's like I'm not down with that program, because I'm in the game, right? TV shows, all of that, and I have not yet. I don't think. Maybe not the ones who actually that they took them somewhere.
Yeah.
Did not come back and say, this little thing like this going in that little behind there, like the Puff Daddy stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Did you just say the Diddy stuff? Is that what you just said?
Hey, I'm just using for reference. The word on the street.
That's amazing. Word on the street.
The word on the street is that Diddy stuff from Aliens ain't pretty.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
That's the truth.
And you can't do nothing about it.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to have that experience. I would not want to be abducted by any aliens.
Hey,
no thanks.
I'm just saying, but I think that, when you look at all of this and you start thinking about, what, there, like I said, there's people want, like she said, I wanted to experience, and it's almost like you get what you're asking for.
Yeah.
And it's not like they don't feel the consciousness of it or something and be like, okay, well, this person won't be surprised, when you see me or whatever. Now, don't get me wrong. I would mind, being out somewhere and one of them walk up to me and say, hey, you're Roderick Martin with Truth versus Authority podcast. And I'm like, and you talk about reptilians, and I'll be like, yeah, I do. What's up? And then they go, you shift their eyes, and then I'm going,
like, got him.
No, you know what I'm saying. Actually, I have my own expression. So if they came up, Roderick Martin, shipped their eyes, I'll be like,
Can you say that again? I'm sorry, what?
you
I'm
know,
sorry, what?
like, what? Do that again. Because
Yeah.
you would think, somebody be like coming up talking about, well, I watch your podcast and we come to take you with us, and I'll be like,
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
what I'm saying? Like, you're not doing that. You're not taking me with you.
I'm
So
staying right here. My feet are on the ground. My
yeah,
feet are on the flat
I'm
earth.
standing
Okay.
right here. Now, I'll be honest with you, and I know people are gonna think this is kind of a bad, but I honestly think if they've been watching history and they've been watching Earth like they have been, then they will know if they walked up to me and tell me, I want to take you on a ship without knowing the destination. I'm like, dude, do you know my history? My history. I'm not getting on another damn boat, not knowing where it's going, a ship or whatever you want to call it. I'm not getting on no ship and without a destination. Are you freaking kidding me? You better go over there and get somebody else. Come on, dude. What galaxy you from?
It's
So,
hysterical.
I'm like, no, come on, man. You must
That
have
is
been
so
watching us
funny.
enough. I'm not doing that. You're not doing that.
That's hysterical.
But I just think that it's just one of those things that you looking at it, but I don't know. But I do know that doing what we're doing here, this podcast, and because we're not hunting reptilians, we're not doing.
Yeah.
We're seeking the truth.
Yes.
And again, if there are some that are confident enough, want to reveal themselves, and if you're a reptilian, you're watching me, and you're legitimately, you can prove it. You know what I'm saying? You can prove it.
Call the hotline.
Call the hotline. Set up a meeting, meet and greet. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
all you gotta do is twist the eye. And I'm not talking contacts, because if I can pull them out of there, they ain't real.
Yeah.
But
I'll
if you
even
don't mind,
sign a book for you.
and like I said, I heard there's some good ones. There's some good reptilians out there. So that'll be the ones that they would have to, because if they have hybrid into humans, they have to have gotten some of the best of us, right? Some of the best parts of us, intertwined in there, so to speak. Where you get what I'm saying. It's just not an overtake thing, because all of that mixing ain't perfect. This one didn't come out to be the perfect reptilian and perfect human. This one may have a little more human in them, and because one thing we do know, they supposedly don't have the emotions.
Yeah.
And like all
cold-blooded
other species, cold-blooded and all of those things. Well, Jazz, I appreciate you coming out tonight.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
And you all just heard from the J Report.
J Report. Remember to stay curious. Stay weird.
Curious.
And if somebody blinks sideways at you, just remember to smile and say, "Nice scales."
Yeah. Now, all right, but okay. Hang on. Let's bag up for a minute. You single, correct? You single,
Yeah,
or you?
I am.
You a date a reptilian?
Would I did? I mean, it depends. It depends on what kind of reptile he is.
I mean, you already gonna draw him in with your pheromones.
If he's right. I mean, I don't really like snakes, so I guess they're out.
Well,
There's so many puns.
What he's gonna turn into, but I'm just saying he's suave. He's counting, and he's gonna bite you. Because that metaphor of Dracula works with him.
Yeah. I mean, they've made it seem really, really like a great thing in the movies. Like, I'm like, do I want to get bit by a vampire? Oh, I kind of feel like I do, but I really don't.
That you know what? Some guy's listening, and he's gonna put on some fake teeth, and he's gonna approach you.
He's like, I watch the podcast. I watch Roderick Martin's podcast.
Yeah, he gonna bite you and leave his plastic teeth on your throat. But
I hope not.
You know what I'm saying? But he gonna get the date though, right? You'll be like, yeah, we went.
No. Nobody's getting a date if they're gonna act like a reptile.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you. We'll see y'all next time for the J Report. And,
thanks for having me.
All right, appreciate it.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
All right. So that's the greatness of Jasmine there, of the Conspiracy Cowgirls, the J Report. Like we said, and we're going to get more calls, and this is going to get deeper. You know, this particular show tonight was just more or less something unbelievable when you running across these type things, and you try to comprehend and not even try to put myself in the shoes of those parents who would have their baby, and all of a sudden over time, this baby begins to grow. You know, just imagine this, just imagine this stuff. And all of a sudden, this baby began to grow a tail. What do you do? And like I said in the beginning of the show, most naturally, you're going to pray. And most naturally, you're going to turn to religion to try to figure what's out. But at what point that you start going down that rabbit hole and you start listening and reading about the serpent stuff? And I'm only bringing this up because we're talking about religion, and you're thinking of Christianity or whatever your religious beliefs are, and the snake is a bad thing. The serpent is considered bad, but yet you start seeing that this beautiful child has a serpent tail. And at first you may say, okay, it's a birth defect, but then you start looking into the medical stuff on the website of the government. And you start looking at the government, and you start saying to yourself, wait a minute, they calling this a true human tail. What do you do? I would like for some of you to tell me, and I'll put it on the screen. What would you do if you had a situation to where this is on your child? Now, once again, like I said, you're looking at, okay, some abnormality. But if you start doing your research and you start digging up things like this, reptilian stuff like this, and all these ancient figurines in history, and you start hearing things about pheromones, that lizards and women is a chemical match. You get what I'm saying? And the list keeps going on, and then you get into scripture where Genesis says, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, that the daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and they were fair, and they took them as their wives. And then you've run into stories like the Nephilims, who are giants, and are they really angels, and find out they wasn't. They were hybrids. And it all leads back to the serpent race or serpent genetics. And then you run across movies or a podcast like this one, and all of a sudden you hear some guy who's sitting there like me, handsome, good guy, and he's talking about reptilian shapeshifters, and he does a podcast showing this kind of stuff. And what do? Where's your mind? Where you go? And I think that's something there. Unless the parents that these children are possibly born to are genetically hybrids, and it overdid. And they might be like, hey, we need to get this straight so they won't know who or the true identity of little Jonathan or baby Sam, you don't know. But that also leads me down a path, as I'm talking to you as naturally as I can, that this is why I go down this route. This is why I can stick over here to the word on the street stuff, right? Which y'all know is our new term for conspiracies. We're going to use that from now on. And we can go down those roads, and we can sit here and listen to all these shows and fluff and aliens not real. But then when we start seeking the truth begins to blind you, and not blind you in a way that you don't see it, but blind you with like, dang, because I've said it before and I'll say it again. When you're dealing with people, and the worst people you can be in a relationship with, married to, in love with, seeing homeboys, homegirls, sisters, brothers, bosses, whatever. And the worst people is the people who all their lives, and up until today, they think that what we talk about is not true, that this stuff is just not true. And then they began to come places like this, and I'm going to harp it and discover and keep going and interview, bring you stuff over and over. This is the reptilian place. This is where it is. Make sure you share that and tell everybody this, the reptilian engines. I know this thing. I know it. And we just keep giving little breadcrumbs because we're not gonna point, right? And then they find out that something they thought was not true all their lives, that they get enough information, enough things they can see, they can and go down a possibility that now that changes what they know. And they can't do it. They can't move. They can't fathom it. It's called cognitive dissonance. It just can't. It messes them up. And a lot of you in relationships with people like that. And don't get me wrong, it goes the opposite way too, where somebody who thought something was not or true all their life, they thought it was true all their lives. And then they get enough information to find out it's not true and they can't convert. And that is one of the most horrible things to be, because sometimes we grow in relationships. We supposed to grow together and we're supposed to evolve together. But sometimes one person goes this way and this one this way, and they're in the same house. And man, when those roads began to clash on truth, and that is a taboo thing. And we got to figure out a way to get people curious, like you heard Jasmine say. We got to figure a way to get people very curious. And this is why when I do my stuff, it's primitive if I can get it. Yeah, I'm not trying to go and show you government, disclosures and all that stuff. I can care less. They got their own thing. We need to know what's going on here. And I'm just saying, for me personally, I got a lot of good friends that they really do good content on disclosure and congressional hearings and, who got the next spaceship and something crash landed. I'm just telling you, even though my DNA is UFOs, UFO investigator, TV host, UFOs, but it's no more, somebody walk up to me, you believe UFO is real? And I look at them, are we really there? Really? Really? I don't even believe it. And they be like, you don't believe it? No, I know. So let's move on to something else. Now I believe that the reptilians are here and that we've proven that point, and I don't think people are going to like where we go. I don't think people are going to like as we unfold this, especially as we start getting more calls from the hotline, more things that are not fictitious that we see on YouTube or and people are starting to bear witness, because eventually the show will get out. The call, somebody will share the information. A person is a hybrid who has a good heart is going to correct us. They're going to correct me. They're going to tell me I was wrong about that, but you were right about this. Or you've been right about all the things that you're saying at some point. This world is not what everybody thinks. And what does that do for us? Maybe it answers the questions for each and every one of you. It answers what we're looking for. But if you're with me and you're with the agenda of what we're doing here on this channel, we won't be small. We'll be shared. Your comments, you will help the algorithm, because after the show ends, we have to post some comments and let the YouTube know we want more information, because the bigger we get, the better, more people are going to see, and we will get the calls and the information that we need. It won't be speculative. It'll be researched, but it darn sure will have some proof in the pudding behind it. And that's what I'm doing. And hopefully you appreciate those things and all of that. As a matter of fact, let me put that on the screen there. if you find any value in tonight's show, to let you know that we are a community funded show, and I would love for you to show your support. We have our Cash App and stuff like that. You can, and if only if you find value in what we're doing, so we can do more and more and more of what we're doing, and continue to find it. If there's anything in particular you want us to go areas and talk about, put in the chat, and then we could kind of put things together so that we can do this. And I think that yeah, Bella says people are stuck on the fact that Black people don't get abducted. Well, you're 100% on that deal, because that is one reason that I started Bella, I started Project Black. And one of the reasons I did that is to, and it stands for the Black League of Alien Contact Knowledge, is to create a safe place for us to begin to tell our stories. In fact, I was just talking to Billy the other day, and we're actually going to set some up in Dallas, and we're going to do a Project Black event. We'll try to put it together in some months to come too, because it's time to pretty much get people to come forward, because we it's a taboo subject in our community, and there is a part that we need to do that. And so I think it's one of those deals. And it is definitely not a geographical or racial thing. I mean, people are getting inducted all over the place. But my concerns at that time, and I just take a little quick detour for Bella's comment, was that when I started looking at all this research and I would see 30,000 stories and only 2 or 3 in my community, then I will know. But you all can go back and look up your songs. Swing low, sweet chariot, come and take me home. And you might be, why am I singing that? Well, back then, there wasn't airplanes. The rumor was chariots, and all of those things. So why was the slave swing low, sweet chariot, come and take me home while they're out in the fields? Because they saw these UFOs. That's what they called them back then, the chariots of the gods. That was in the books, right? And they're saying, swing low, take us home, get us out of here. And I looked over Jordan. What did I see? Angels coming for me, because it was in the sky. So those stories been out there all the time. And so those are things. So she says she's in New Orleans. Yeah. Make sure y'all come on by. Hopefully by the Wednesday show, we will have our details on our Dallas meetup. And you guys are welcome to know we're going to do our meet and greet. We're going to do it at Joe Pool Lake in Dallas. So let some of y'all know pretty much from there. And right now, if you haven't got your gear, make sure you go to the gear and get your gear. And also the book, The Unspeakable Truth, is on pre-sale at Provid Knowledge site. There's a link in the description. We want to help this become a bestseller. And there's a big announcement when we do make this become a bestseller. So if y'all can help and do that, but get pre-order. It is a physical book that will be out. It's on pre-order right now. So make sure that you all definitely check that out as well, I would say. One of those things. Also, we have our combo on the site, the disobey, because, when you think about mind control, all they want you to do is obey. So here's our gear, our luminous gear of disobey. Now we have a combo, the hat and combo is ready for you. And get your hat and combo is on sale. It's $12 off, man. So get you both. If you go and look on the website, the link is in the description. The combo is there. This is Rashad's hat. He bought him a disobey hat. It's already ready. He's supposed to have picked it up Saturday. So he'll come whenever, but this is his hat. He's in the chat. He's in Dallas. So, and his shirts and stuff is over there. And Tina, your shirt went in the mail today. But anyway, yeah, so, support the show, get you some gear. Definitely do that. If you worried about your energy and them doing your energy, make sure you get your book of sacred secrets. It's a downloadable thing. The link is in the description. Click the rodericksecret.com/merch. Go there, and you got to protect your energy. We are working on things to put on our website that's going to protect your energy. Things that we will have specially done for us in our communities. And so definitely be mindful of that. That's going to happen for all of us to do those things in pretty much. And yeah, and we can kind of do those things. Yeah, so if you are in the DFW area, and hopefully this message finds you, I was supposed to give Maya the list. I'm having trouble finding the old emails. Oh my God. So if you can, go to our 800 number. You can screenshot it. And let me put it on the screen so you can just make your screenshot of this. Go to our 800 number and then text or call, but text. And please put your name, say your first name, text your first name, and I'm in Dallas, and then we can add to the list because we're going to have the first Dallas get together in hopefully in 2 weeks. So we will finalize it this week, and we'll start meeting. We'll have it. We're going to do it at Jopu Lake here in Dallas, and sit around and have some stuff and talk some alien conspiracy and just meet everybody here in Dallas and have a good time. Bring the kids, and we'll try to pick a spot where if you get your kids, they can do whatever. So it's a family thing. We're all doing our thing. So we will do that. If there's any other things that I'm not sure when the book is going to be released. I talked with Billy Saturday, so it stays in pre-release for a little while. And then from there, what the plans are in pre-release, once we get enough copies, then he will go ahead and pre-order those copies, send them to me, and I'll sign those. I'll sign those copies, all the pre-orders, to who are all purchasing, and maybe a quick note to each one. I don't care if it's 1,000 of them. I would love to sign 1,000. And then those will be the ones sent back out to the people. So that's the plan. So that the original pre-orders are signed with signatures and everything else. And so again, the link is in the description of this video. So please show your support, and we can do that as well. With that being said, if there's anything else, then we're going to get ready to get out of here. We'll be back probably in a day or two. I think we won't be live streaming on Forbidden Knowledge this week. I know there was two or 3 weeks, but maybe I think next week, So we will be here. So either we'll come back here and just kind of let things flow the way it goes and everything else. And so with that being said, if there's anything else that you all want to cover, we can do that. But I appreciate each and every one of you being here tonight. Please do me a big favor. When this video is over, and if you do have the time to go back to YouTube, hit the like button. You can do it now too, as well. Hit the like button now on the way out. But I would love for some of you to go back and do a comment and say something like you like this reptilian stuff. We need the algorithm to begin to understand that this is some great stuff that we want, and we'll begin to put those things out. And that'll be something we're going to do. I am going to do a giveaway eventually, where we will probably do a giveaway on people that do comment. And I have this little I have this little thing that we will probably use to it'll be like what is called pick names. Let me show y'all real quickly so y'all can kind of see it over here. I'm going to share the screen. All right, so as you can see it right here. So each week, starting next week, anybody who comments with the word reptilian on our comment after the video, of course, I will each week put your name or something in here. We'll do it live. And then basically all we have to do is, so let's say, for instance, your name is whatever, then we can hit the button. Oh, let me go back, click this, it spins, as you can see, and then it will choose a name, and then it will tell us who the winner is, like that name is Gabriel. We can move it, and then we will give out a free shirt, send something out to someone, but I'm only going to pick the names from the comments, the usernames from the comments after the video. And so we'll probably start do that next week. And then, but it all go on, if you're listening now, it'll be whoever comment on this particular video. And again, it has to have the word reptilian in the comment. And then I'll put you in here, we'll choose, and then you will win a free gear or something. And then you can text me your information. We can do that. I already got the plan. If multiple people text me and say it's me, I was that username, then all I'm going to do is give you a code word to post back on the thing. And the only person who username is can only be the one to post that on that. So then we'll weed that out real quickly for the fake naysayers. But I would glad for people who want to hustle me out of free gear. I love it. I mean, they want it really bad. But yeah, but anyway, remember, all I want you to do is when this video is over, make sure you like it, but then post something after this video in the comments with the word reptilian. And then the next show we do at the end, you want to be present to win, of course, right? Because you won't know it. But we will put your name in the thing and we will pull it. We will do that. All right. So Renee says she thinks and likes the comments and everything. That way nice, because I'm currently job hunting. Okay, cool. And everything else. And Hanova said 8 that said I'm going to win. I would like to see more reptilian. Diane, we're going all in on reptilian stuff. So we're going all in. And it is so much stuff, from religion to real life to Illuminati to politics to you name it. It is a lot of religion. Not just religion, but reptilian agenda, things that we can talk about, all the way down to sequence MK Ultra, mind control, monarch programming is all part of their agenda of keeping us in low vibration, and by keeping anxiety and all those things going. So it is huge. So when we see some of these celebrities or actors and different people doing their job to entertain us, to keep us low, into pass along the symbolism and saying it's us, this is what we're doing, making people stay in low vibrational states, so that, once again, as you heard Jasmine and I talk about, that they're feeding off the loosh. And people just don't think that's a grand scheme. But if you start thinking and looking at the systems that we have that's out there, that it just, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It just starts to make more and more sense. And the weather in Texas is beautiful, Lily, beautiful. Yeah. And so once you start seeing those things, then it is something that we are definitely looking forward to talk about a lot more and everything else. All right. So Melissa said, we like this information. Keep it coming. All right. So again, all of you who are saying those good things, please, if you can just, post comments after the video on YouTube, when this video is over, just as soon as we hang up, you can go and post a comment and say you like this reptilian stuff, whatever. If everybody said that, that would probably be pretty good for the algorithm and they see it. But we want to use the word reptilian, and then that'll kind of let them know, or shapeshifters, whatever, all those common keywords to know the signal that this is the place, right? And then we'll keep our word up from there as well. And all right, so with that being said, it's been a plum pleasing pleasure, as well as a privilege to have an opportunity to serve each and every one of you, because that is something that, anyway, Y'all hug somebody, right? It's all about love. Y'all know that, right? I don't know if you can hear me okay, because sometimes this audio is a little bad, and or it gets a little bad when we're doing that. But if you can hear me, y'all let me know. And if the music is not too distracting for you. So anyway, I love each and every one of you, as you know this, and I love what I do, and I hope you love what you do and you love everyone. Make sure you give people hugs and kisses, because it's all about the energy out there. Don't kiss strangers, though, because you may get things that you don't need. But at the end of the day, love is love, and I think that is the overall thing that I'm finding more and more as we go down this journey, which is truly powerful. True love is powerful, which is something that I search for. You know, I search for true love, and hopefully it's someday I'll experience before I leave this particular experience that I'm experiencing, and get true love and really understand what it is, and pretty much, because I don't think I've experienced it. Probably why I don't know it, maybe, but I definitely want to be it, and as well as to experience it. But for those of you who have an opportunity and that are experiencing it, please just grab it, hold it tight, and embrace it. And in all those things, I think it's something important to really think about. And but again, I love y'all. And to my haters, if you can hate me and you don't know me, I can still love you without meeting you. I just don't want to meet you, but I still love you, because everybody needs love. We can do that. All right, I'm out. And Monica said, nice. Hey, Monica, what's up? We haven't seen each other in a while. Talked to each other in a while. All right, y'all. Peace. Your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. Hang on. All right, we're good to go.
Welcome, Truth Seeker. You are no longer asleep. I am Luminous, the Owl of Truth. The world is blind, but you have opened your eyes. Welcome to the fire of esoteric knowledge and truth. You are now one of the awakened. You are now luminous. Welcome to the rebellion. Welcome to truth versus authority.